Article 8 failed.
Well, I don't remember. All I remember on the article last year was boat excise tax. I don't remember.
This is essentially what the article was last year, right? We pulled everything in the article.
So we was pulling money out of the water quality fund also?
That was the proposal. It didn't have to be voted on, because last year the Article 8 passed.
Well,
it's not.
I guess my understanding was that first time we had closed the doors to the water quality, taking money out of the water quality fund. I thought this board had decided that they weren't taking any more out of there because we had drawn it down to a point that we just needed it for, because we had well issues and other things, so we weren't taking any more money out of there. So I'm not sure, I don't recall having the option of taking any more money out of the water quality fund.
Well,
I thought that the boat excise tax was estimated to be about $19,000, and that's what we was proposing. So I guess my thought on that is I think this article should go away, because this is my feeling on this. And I'm going to say this because this is what I truly believe. I believe that you have a great organization. They do fantastic things. And they are a non-profit organization, and they raise all kinds of money. And we, the town, in the past, has been willing to offer up a considerable amount of money. And we jumped in and ordered a lot, and we offered a lot of extra money to support what was the initial program to get it down into a controllable manner. And that was the milfoil in particular. So then all of a sudden, now they go, what I say is they circumvent the select board, deciding what we want to make as what we feel is a reasonable donation to the organization. They go out and basically, this is my view, and only my view, is that $40,000 they're going to require, if it's approved by the voters, that they're going to force people who cannot afford to pay anymore to make a donation to a non-profit organization, whether they believe in it or not. And I just think it's just, I have a really hard time in accepting that. And I shared with this board exactly what Social Security has been and what the school budget has been, and we know that that's going to be another huge increase this year. And it's just people, we have 8, as far as I know, we have 8 properties now we're going to take from people. And we have people that have the ability to, an organization, I shouldn't say people, we have an organization that has the ability to actually reach out and ask people who can't afford to give. But no, they ought to come here and force the taxpayers of this town, who many of them can't afford, but a large percent of them can't afford. And it just goes against my grain to use that route to get money when there's other options. And I also want to just reference the fact that Streetscape up here, look at what those people did to get what they wanted. They didn't ask the taxpayers. They didn't go out and try to demand it. So I'm just sharing how I view this, and I'm probably the only one that views it this way, but I respect these people. They do a fantastic job, and I really, it bothers me somewhat to say negative, have that thought, but I'm thinking of I just wish some of the people, and I don't know how many people have gone door to door in this town and see how people live. It's just unbelievable.
So you're asking for this to go away?
Well, I'm saying we shouldn't propose this. If they want their 40,000, they get it, they get it. I would rather just see this.
That would be the alternative.
Yes.
It goes down to one article, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There is no contingency fund. Howard, you had a comment, a question?
My only question was trying to understand the whole water quality fund issue. Isn't it that in the past, and maybe this is something that needs to be cleared up, In the past, there was an article, and maybe it was a forever article, that did 50% of the boat excise tax to the water quality, and 50% of what was going to other, to this kind of a thing. It's not that we're taking money out of a water quality fund, we're just not putting the 50% of the boat excise tax into a water quality fund with the action that was proposed here.
I believe there are reserves that are set up, and the way the water quality improvement fund was being funded at one time was 50% of the foreclosures and 50% of the boat excise tax went into the water quality improvement fund.
So
And
if
I believe
we're,
that that's just in the reserves themselves.
is this 40,000, if the 40,000 is approved,
That's raise and appropriate.
That's raised, yeah.
Yep.
okay,
Raise and
so
appropriate.
basically then boat excise tax will stay in the general fund.
No, you've got warrant articles that set up the water quality improvement fund reserves to be funded a certain way, and that 50% of that was from the boat excise tax and 50% from foreclosures. And then there was
I think the 50% of the boat excise tax, that goes into the water quality.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And the other 50%
goes into the general fund.
Well, yeah,
If it's-
But is it all gonna go into to offset the 40,000?
No, nothing will offset
nothing
the
offsets the
40,000.
40.
Nothing offsets the 40,000, that's strictly new money raised.
Dan?
What was the boat excise tax for this year?
To date, boat excise tax is $17,575.
Okay, so basically what Howard was saying is, instead of putting 50% of the boat excise tax into the water quality fund, the whole thing, all the boat excise tax would be going on this.
No, the petition asked for it to be raised and appropriate.
Right, but what happens is, you'd be putting it into the water quality fund, but you're gonna pull it right back out
No.
if
No.
this,
No, it's not, no, it doesn't even involve.
It'll stay in that fund.
no, on this contingency item.
Oh, yes.
You basically,
Yeah.
you're just not putting anything into the water quality fund, you're just
Right.
using all of the excise tax.
Right, but if we're gonna take it out anyway, it's not an issue.
Article, what Ernie is saying, Article 48 will go away. So there, 40 will
Let's take
rest
it,
on
let's
the
take it or leave it,
voters.
yeah.
If they get it, they get it. If they don't, there is no money that's gonna go to that organization.
I'll second.
Jack?
Article 48, as it's written in here, doesn't make sense anyway, because it goes back to, it says Article 41 will be voted on if Article 9
Yeah,
is
it's
defeated,
an
and 9 is the
example.
fireworks.
It's an example, it's what was written last year.
This was just to offer you the ability to do a contingency article should you want to, and apparently not.
It's the same article that was in last year.
Yeah.
We would have rewritten
It was just a space.
You want a second?
That's just what's here.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? Now, I guess the discussion is, do we want that Article 48 to go away, or do we want it to stay?
I make a motion that Article 48 goes away.
And I'll second it.
Well, moved and seconded, Article 48 goes away. Is there any discussion?
I don't think we need it.
What's the harm in just leaving it there? I mean, there's no harm in leaving it there. I mean,
Well, there is, in a sense.
in a sense, but I mean, if Article 8 is defeated, then, this could be voted on as a.
That was the idea last year, that if Article,
Yeah.
the initial Article 40 was defeated,
Sure.
then this one they could vote on this one to alleviate some of that.
Sure.
The idea now is just to not do that.
But the idea of removing this article as, kind of a,
A buffer.
Well, I was gonna say a slap in the face to these organizations. Take it or leave it, the 40,000. If you don't get it, then too bad. I just think, why not have this as a alternative if Article 8 doesn't pass? If Article 8 passes, it's a moot point. I don't see why it couldn't stay there as a, as an alternative way of helping these organizations do the amazing work they do.
Ernie?
Well, just to address that, and I hear what you're saying, initially, I guess, to give a little more history. The initial proposal that I proposed, and I was hoping that the organization was gonna go with, is that we would give them 100% of the boat excise tax. And as long as that was approved for several years, then we would just make it a forever article. We don't, I mean, it's just done. We just, every year, it would be, we don't have to come back and go through whatever the boat excise tax, they would always get it. They don't have to go through any petitioning or anything else. And my thought process on that, it alleviates what I feel is an inappropriate request on people in this town that cannot afford to give any more. And they don't have any choice. If the voters decide they want to give the money, it doesn't matter if there's 400 votes for and 399 against, they get the money. And to me, it's like, this is a guarantee, and it's not like it's a life or death for an organization that does great things. This is just a question to me that, you know, you want to roll the dice, do a petition, roll the dice, do a petition. If people want to give you the money, they'll give it to you. Otherwise, you don't get it. I'm saying, my view is the board is giving you an opportunity in the past to take a guaranteed gift and be gracious.
Ernst?
So, let's say Article 8 didn't exist. I mean, you would be in favor of,
Absolutely.
of this right here.
The whole boat excise tax.
And did this organization put together a petition?
They did.
Which, so they have every right to put together
Oh,
this
yes.
petition asking for Article 8. Okay, and if that gets defeated, then you're in favor of this. You personally, you're in favor
Well,
of this.
no, because I feel that they rolled the dice, they're gambling. I think-
Okay, well,
and-
but they went through the procedure necessary to put Article 8 on as a, correct.
There is a motion on the floor that's been seconded to remove Article 48. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of removing Article 48, raise your hand, please. And those opposed, 3-2. 48 goes away. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in, we appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us.
You've been great audiences, I mean, you sat there.
Didn't say a word yet.
You didn't throw anything at us.
You do a great job. We just want you to know that.
It's so funny.
I did have a bulletproof vest on.
It's so funny.
You didn't need it.
I'm only kidding.
This is down there. It's so funny.
You're gonna have to pick up the key soon.
Oh, you got the key?
Not with me, I just thinking out loud. Yep.
Well, we're gonna get snow,
Right.
but it still needs to freeze up a little bit. Yeah.
Quite a lot, yeah.
Okay, we can bring that up at.
We had an issue last year, so I'll make sure.
Okay, that was warrant petitions.
Yep.
It gets cold.
We'll talk. Thank you.
Move into the select board. Is that Article 11?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Minutes running behind.
Yeah, I guess so, we got it. Yes, yes. Hey, I know, I think I saw you last time we voted. So nice to see you. I hope before. Thank you.
Well, did somebody say?
That's pretty good.
There's nobody here.
Article 11, to see if the town will authorize the board of select persons to act in the following. Spend the amount not to exceed 1/4 of the approved budget for 2018 between January 1st and 2019. This is one we go through every year. Vote to accept any and all overdrafts and balances. Is there any discussion on Article 11?
I'd just like to point out one issue, I thought Jack might have brought it up, because he brought it up during it's like during the budget committee meetings. The 4% per annum, there has been a question about, is that sufficient? Because some people who have significant properties in Belgrade and get taxed a fair amount, in the 20, 30, 40,000 range, whatever the taxes are, seem to be, some of them seem to let the taxes lapse and they're paying the 4% where they can receive 7, 8, 10% by investing it elsewhere. And then they pay it up in the end. That, as I understood what Jack's comment was. So the question is, would you want to entertain any increase in that The counter to that is it does hurt people if you go higher, who are more likely to lapse because of their inability to pay. So there's two kind of competing interests here, and I know the board has always sided on to provide a benefit to the lower income, but by doing that, you provide a benefit to them. So that's the tension. Not a recommendation to me, it's a tension, I'm just pointing it out.
I guess just to,
Go ahead, Bernie.
I guess just to support, I can't.
Go for it.
I just wish I'd never gone around this town and see how people live. But to me, it's like, for those that benefit from it, all the more power to them. But I think the focus on this board should be the people that really it hurts the most. So I think we should keep the number where it is.
Howard?
There are a lot of situations where financial institutions scale their interest rates based on amount of money. Why wouldn't it be appropriate to say 4% for any taxes less than $3,000 that are owed, and for greater than, or whatever, you know, pick a number, and for higher amounts, have a higher percentage?
Do that legally?
Well, that would be something I'd have to research to see whether you can do that or not. My sense would be, based on the constitutional property tax, my sense would be that it probably couldn't be done, but I'll do the research. I'll ask.
Well, if there's no interest in that kind of an idea, don't bother to spend the time redoing the research. But I just think, you know, I agree with Jack that people using Belgrade as a bank is kind of a lousy situation. I'm not at all in favor of trying to knock down the guy who's struggling, can't pay their taxes this year.
Dan?
Just a quick question. When I was on the board, we had a lot of people come in and we abated taxes. Does the board have the leeway to abate the interest, a certain amount of interest? Because then you could still charge the higher interest rate. If somebody who couldn't afford to pay it comes in and asks,
That's a research issue.
you could abate X amount of interest off of the loan if they're gonna pay it out.
You gotta have a guideline that's.
Okay, Ernie?
I guess
You can abate.
when we look at our
Please,
cash-
gentlemen.
when we look at our cash account, what do we, Melanie, what do we get for interest on our cash account from the bank?
0.3.
Oh, no, it's not, it's 6 now, they just did double.
0.6.
Yep.
So we're getting
0.6.
0.6, so I guess we shouldn't be focused on, we're only getting 4%, because I think we're doing pretty good.
No,
I'm just pointing out that, you know, these people are getting a benefit, but the town is getting a benefit. That's all I'm pointing out. We're getting 4%, we're doing good.
Ricky?
Can Melanie tell us, is there more people that are struggling to pay their taxes than there are that's got the money that could pay the taxes?
Yes, there are.
I agree with you, we're gonna leave the same.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? Then we'll leave that as is and go on to Article 10. The town will appropriate revenues from the following source in 218 to reduce property, 218 property tax commitments, and it goes down to be $877,500, exactly the same as, well, slightly higher than the one last year. Comments, questions?
Is that a pretty true figure?
Well, it's as true as this article is.
No, no, it's not.
When you say it's true, it's.
Well, I mean, is it gonna, at the end of the year, is this gonna change and?
Well, when we go to vote property taxes, and the other things that you can bring into the article that you will know, that number will go up in terms of the property tax commitment. But right now, this is all we.
Okay, no, that's good.
And I believe, isn't this an annual, we
It's
do this
annual.
every year? Mr. Barrett?
In light of the fact that we just threw away Article 40, whatever it was,
48.
48, my recollection, my way of thinking, that's the only place where voting money was mentioned.
Oh, right, yeah.
So does that have to be listed here?
Good point, yeah. The vote registration dollars, because right now 50% is going into the
50%
water.
of what's gonna happen to the other half.
I wish I'd brought me,
Oh, that goes to the.
yes, there's half that goes to
water quality.
Vote excise,
Yeah, but see, it's an article right now, right? Is the water, is the, what Mike is
it's
talking.
a forever article that we have.
Okay, so that's a forever article. Yeah. But half of that must still be,
What happens the other half? of that?
Well, I'm sure.
That was my question before.
I thought you get the answer went to general account.
I thought that was split among them.
Well, I may have just.
We have that, not reason.
The other half goes to
Okay, to see if the town will use, this is a forever article. 50% of the revenues generated by boat taxes collected by the town to fund the established water crew. So that's being done. And then 50% of it for closure. So 50% should go into the, okay, so we'll put that in. That's an adjustment.
Goes back.
We'll make that adjustment.
General?
That's what this, the way this is.
clarify.
I thought it was that way, but it got me confused again.
can I just throw one out? This is kind of a joke.
Should I start?
Is the board entitled to a 3% increase?
Yes.
And insurance.
No, I can't.
No, you're full time.
Okay, gentlemen, this particular article, are we good? It's every year we do it, Article 13.
I have a question, real quick question though. The budget committee's always made recommendations on that article, but it's not a raise article. Is that one that we should or shouldn't be? I mean, it's appropriations,
It's a monetary article, right?
that's why, it's one of those kind of gray areas, so I just figured I'd bring it up and
I thought we
ask.
decided not to. Everybody.
Well, last year we ended up voting
Before
on
we
it.
did, we did away with it.
But, I mean, you're not raising it out of people's
It
taxes.
is gonna be what it's gonna be.
Right, I just didn't know if it was
Yeah.
something that the
You see,
budget committee should even bother to.
well, we can,
Make
we'll check that
recommendations.
out, and when it comes to that, vote, we'll tell you your opinion.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I'm gonna look what you did last year.
Last year, we voted on
That's what I
it,
thought.
but there's a lot of these other articles that are just appropriating money.
That's right.
We don't
Okay,
seem to
so
be.
just take it
So.
Okay, Article 13, to see if the town will raise an appropriate sum of $581,887 to support costs associated with municipal operations and administrative activities. It's broken down. It is up this year, rather remarkably up.
Must be a misprint.
It is,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, there's a misprint.
You want to tell us why it's up?
I could ask Melanie, she'd probably go right through and give you the numbers. Remember, the wages and benefits are going up, and so that's part of it. The code enforcement issue is where, this is where we discussed the code enforcement going to full-time, because that went up. Let's see what else. Oh, and the town
Town
manager, you're paying more this year for a town manager than last year? That was your discretion?
So that number may not be accurate at this, until,
Well, this number is reflective of what the requests were, which is the wages and benefit. We know we're gonna do that analysis, so that'll drop that. May drop that. The CEO as a full-time is the issue, one of the issues you have to discuss.
Artie?
I guess, I knew we was talking about maybe increasing the code enforcement officer, home inspector, but to $91,000.
That was the request, was a full-time. Remember when I said they were gonna request a full-time position? That's what a full-time position would cost. And I looked at the various wages. What Gary's earning right now as a part-time inspector on an hourly basis is pretty much in the middle, if not lower. And so that's what we use, and that includes his full benefits, which we know if this were to go to full-time benefits and if Gary were to be hired, that's all ifs because you can't pre-select, then Gary probably wouldn't take those benefits. But that's if someone else were hired, or if Gary were to have got the job and then pass away or something, God forbid, then you would have to potentially pay this. So that's why that's.
Well, I guess my issue with this is, first off, I think the board should have made a decision whether we was gonna allow any, if we go back a little bit in history, there's been discussion about sharing Gary with
Yep.
Sydney and Belgrade. or maybe another community. But there was never any, I don't recall any real honest discussion about having a full-time code enforcement officer being discussed with the select board as to, do we really need it? These are the hours that are being worked now. And, you know, I see the warrant and the amount of stuff, I don't know, maybe he's working a lot more hours than I realized, but I know he puts in Thursday nights.
And he's working 16 hours.
Yeah, 16 hours, so he's working 16 hours, so even if we increase that, 40 hours a week.
Oh, yeah, I hear you, Ernie, and I put this in because it came forward as a request from the comprehensive plan review. We mentioned it.
Planning board too.
Well, I don't know. Planning
The
board-
request did not come from the planning board, but we do see the ramifications when there is more need for CEO activity.
Robert, you
You
had
know,
a question?
I'm not gonna argue there's more need, but
So I put the full-time in there. It's a perfect place to discuss whether you want 16 hours, 18 hours, 40 hours, whatever you want.
what do you need?
That's
to-
reflective of the full-time.
Guess what would you feel?
I mean, Dennis and I have had this discussion, and we don't totally agree. I personally don't feel that it's a full-time position. Could you increase the hours? I think probably that's reasonable. Entirely up to you.
What's an hour, what do you think is?
Maybe maybe 16 to 24, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I was thinking 25 would be a good one.
25?
Okay, let's, Howard, you had a question.
Well, that was my question. My question was gonna be, Gary, what does he feel would be an appropriate number of hours? He knows more about that business than any of us do, in terms of, I guess, in the budget meetings that we had with Denny, he was indicating a concern for enforcement, and that there were some things falling through the cracks because you physically can't be doing what had to be done in that amount of time. And my comment to him was, well, what does Gary feel like? And he said, what you just expressed, which is not necessarily full-time. And I would be much more inclined to say, let's go to 24, let's go 25 hours, something like that, and see if that is enough for the next year, to see if that's enough to do some of the enforcement that needs to be done, because obviously having the codes and not being able to enforce them makes the codes rather ineffective. But
So if you're going to, say you went to 25, how many hours would you be in the office here for people to come in and get their permits?
That's something we need to discuss. How you want that, you know, that's,
are people clamoring for that?
No, I gotta tell you, I mean, and I've said this before, is Gary's been pretty special. I mean, you gotta work with some of these other towns to know what goes on. I mean, I got some towns there's only 1 day a week that you can get an inspection done, so you gotta plan your whole work around that. You've got some other towns that are there 2 days a week, and, I mean, they're lucky, they'll come look at it, but we're lucky. If you get a system done and need it inspected, he either comes at noontime and did it, or at nighttime, and he calls and said, yep, it's all set, Rick, you go ahead. But, you know, we're pretty fortunate to have that, because a lot of towns do not. So,
and to get back to your question, I mean, if you say to me, I want you to work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, then there's a pretty good chance that I'm not gonna go inspect a septic for Ricky on a
That's right.
Sunday.
Yeah, I got you, I understand
Okay.
that. Yeah, I think my comment was, my comment was based on Ricky's previous comment,
Yeah.
that people had a hard time coming in and getting their permits.
well,
And
you gotta plan your day.
Oh, I know.
That's minor, getting the permit's minor. I mean,
I totally on this.
I know, the inspection is not.
Well, I would argue, not contradicting anything you said, but I would argue the following. I get complaints all the time about shoreline zoning violations, other violations, permit violations, for building permit violations, things like that, that either haven't been permitted or that have been permitted and are being implemented in error.
I found one this morning. I
So-
found a violation this
so-
morning that I need to address.
I don't know how to draw that line, I really don't, that's why Gary and I have had discussions. I don't know whether a full-time position is the way to go or not. That's why I put in full-time, because there was a request from the Comprehensive Planning Review Committee that they felt that it was necessary. I understood, talking to someone from the planning board who was on that committee, or not that the planning board felt a full-time position was necessary, but I may have misinterpreted that. That's the reason why we're looking at full-time, is because it came forward as a request, kind of thought that we do need more. And one other point on permits. And I don't think anyone should be allowed to build anything or do anything on the shoreline without a permit. And I think they should be punished for that. That's a policy issue that you guys have already.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to follow up with what you talked about, Denny. From the planning board perspective, I think that would be ideal to have a situation, although I fully understand that it costs money and we can't always get to the ideal. But working towards something that allows for an enforcement ability for the town speaks volumes to all the taxpayers who have property on the town, on the lake shore, who then do complain when things are built in excess of what was permitted. I can't speak for all of Gary's time. You know, he does a hell of a job going on these times, you know, at a short moment's notice. And if this were to be bumped up in number of hours, could there be a way to structure time in the office and time out on the road and visiting? That would be wonderful, I think.
Right, I agree. And I think it's important that I still have an evening, like a Thursday evening, particularly where we have a planning board meeting every 2 hours.
Certainly, don't take what I say.
No, I understand.
That's a.
Maybe a morning I should be in the office, you know, like 9 to noon or 8 till.
That works.
You know what I'm saying?
Dan?
I think that would be helpful, because in the summertime, for instance, on a Thursday night, they're lined up.
You're busy.
They're lined up. And sometimes it's easier for somebody during the day than it is during the evening.
Okay, Dan?
The other option you've got, you don't want to end up with the same problem you have in the library right now, whereas they ended up putting in more hours even though they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So you might want to consider making the job a contract. If he ends up only having to work 20 hours one week, he still gets paid X amount of dollars. And if he ends up having to work 30 hours another week to do some enforcement stuff, he gets paid X number of dollars. You know, it may be better to look at it as a contract type thing
Which
too.
ones do that?
Because there may be some weeks you don't have to do as much, maybe some weeks you
I'm
can.
a big fan of contracting some positions out. Ernie? I'm sorry.
I guess it's up if Gary would work with that. I think that's great, because wintertime, you definitely don't do anywhere near as much, but it's summertime, you're busy, so if we could pay over the course of a year what you feel is a very comfortable contract wage, then we wouldn't be violating any rules, regulations, and we just pay you.
Right, we just need to decide how many hours you think.
So you're not averse to a contract?
I guess I really never thought about it.
Yeah.
Never thought about it.
Ricky?
I just, I wanted to say, then he talks about the complaints, shoreline zone and all that stuff. The guy, we've been dealing with that with DEP on a piece of property and stuff. He says his busiest time is Memorial Weekend and Labor Day weekend. Because that's when all the people come up here and riding around looking what their neighbors have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they found more complaints then, and he said over half of them, they're not in violation.
You're right, a lot of them are
People are ticked
not.
off because they're doing something that they haven't done.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, I've had these calls. People see a brand new home going up near the water, and they don't know what the rules are, so they call me up. Well,
I get the calls.
and you do too. Well, guess what? They had a cottage, the planning board gave them approval to tear down and rebuild, but the people that make most of the complaints don't know what the rules
No,
are.
they don't know, they don't.
You're right, you're 100% right.
Mr. Barrett?
I said regardless of this, whatever scheme we come up with for Gary's time, I'd like to see it get more time, and I'd like to see it spent out in the field in enforcement efforts. I think you do too. Some of this is coming out and saying there's not a problem. There may be a problem there, but there's not a problem there. They've got a permit or they're not violating the rules. The point is that people get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what I'm afraid of right now, is it's almost a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I went down to Lynch Cove this morning to look to see if
That person-
somebody came into compliance that is supposed to, and I found another violation right next door. So, yeah, I mean, it is important to be out in the field a lot.
Yeah, you see a neighbor getting away with something, so why shouldn't I?
Correct.
So how much,
Let me go there.
Well, should we make a motion to set an hourly time? And it sounds to me like it might be the best of both worlds to just double the 16 hours to like a 32-hour
Well, I'd be
position.
more in favor of the contract.
And maybe
Sort of
make
an
it,
open-ended contract that would be not too open-ended, but Ernie?
I guess, maybe to address your concern, I guess, look, if we break it down 2 seasons, really, you've got summer, and you got winter, we'll just say summer and winter. Summertime is where you're gonna work your hours, so if we put you on a 25-hour work week.
Average, that's an average.
Okay, but I mean, in the wintertime, that's kind of like an overkill, but yet in the summertime, it's not enough, so if we do.
You can control with a contract where he has, yes, you can do that.
You figure out what your hours over the course of the year would be, break it down per hours and give us a number.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we would be very, that would really work great, I think.
Jack?
Well, Ernie's probably said it. Right now, our job is, we've got a $60,000 increase in that line item. And whether that's right or not, we have to find out. But whether it's a contract or by the hour or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna get back to the article here in a minute.
We have to see whether that $60,000 is some other figure.
I think it's another figure,
Yeah.
but,
would this, what we're entertaining here, would that satisfy the planning board and the shoreline?
Speaking on behalf of the planning board, I would be very happy if it would meet the outline that Gary could provide to the select board.
I guess I would have to say on the article that you can't really, other than that particular line item on the code enforcement officer, do we have any problems with Article 13? No? Then I'd say we recommend Article 13 with the exception of the CEO, and then the town manager come up with a contracting venue so that we can contract him, and you're gonna have to give us hours you think it's gonna take and how you're gonna do that. Is that fair enough, town manager?
That gives me direction, but I'll need that in time to prepare the final warrant articles for you folks.
Is that, I guess that was a question that I had, is the 19th too quick for you to come up with?
We can come up with something.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to explain, it looks like I make a huge hourly salary. And for those that don't understand, the reason is because Melanie met with the auditor. I used to get so much per hour, and I used to get 60% of all the permit fees that I issued. The auditor said, what you really should do is figure out an average of what the plumbing permits pay him and roll it all into payroll, so you don't have to separate it that way. Well, the plumbing permits for that particular year that we had this discussion, my 60% was like $5,500 or $6,000. So they just increased the hours to offset that. So it looks like I make a huge hourly wage, but that's why.
So we'll work to reduce your hourly wage to reflect the.
That wasn't what I was getting at.
I guess.
That wasn't the direction you wanted.
I don't know how bookkeeping is done, but I guess my concern there is if you're taking fees, and now it's gonna be wages, that's another expense to the town because we have to have FICA.
Well, I'm not taking fees now, I used to.
It's all hourly now.
It's all hourly.
now. So
Yes.
that was really, was that a good thing for us?
Yes, that was a good thing.
Yes, it was the auditor recommended that.
Well, the only thing I would say, the auditor could recommend lots of things.
No, I
You always
understand.
have to do that, yeah.
But it was easier for Melanie, it was easier for me.
What's more beneficial to the town? Mr. Barrett?
I'm not convinced contract's the way to go. And the reason being is taking personnel as I'm not talking about Gary now. But we have less control over what the incumbent can do. He does not work for the town anymore, he's a contractor.
He works for the town.
He's a contractor, which means he's independent.
We give him
He works for the town. Town handles the contract.
You can't, if
All right.
you
Think of it
can't,
as salaried then.
you can't, is that?
Think of it as salaried then. Go
Yeah,
salary.
it's a salaried position rather than an hourly position.
The town controls the contract, that's just the way it is.
Well, that is true.
And what happens under that contract, now, go ahead, Dennis.
I was just gonna say, that's true, the town controls the contract, but once you let that contract, he's an independent contractor. And as such, there's certain things that he'll have to pick up out of his, like various, whatever the various things that he would have to pick up out of his contract. His social security, all of that.
So you wouldn't, I
No,
wouldn't,
no.
yes, we pay all that, we pay him, but it
No.
would be a contract at a payroll.
I thought if we just issued a contract for $40,000, say we give him $40,000, essentially, he's the one that has to pay all that stuff.
You have a contract.
what?
Are you paying all your own benefits and social security?
Dennis has a contract.
You have a point, and I know, I am not.
And the animal control officer has a
Dennis
contract.
has a
You
contract.
can do it either way,
Yeah.
but we're not
What-
suggesting
what is
doing
it-
it as an independent contractor.
What is the difference between a contract and a salaried position? What is the difference?
Well, I think we'd expect a salaried position to work 40 hours a week.
Depending on
Or
the salary.
32,
Not
or
necessarily.
Yeah, whatever the.
You said it,
Yeah.
what you wanted to work.
Yeah. Whereas the contract can set his own time, but he has specific things that have to be accomplished.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you have feedback into the contract, the contract manager would probably be Denny. And Denny can handle that contract, it's just easy.
Yeah, I mean, the librarian has a contract.
Yeah,
You set it to
absolutely,
that.
yeah.
You know,
So-
it just
so if-
tells all what you have.
So if I'm an independent contractor, let's just say,
No, that's different.
No, that's totally.
That's different.
Just use the word
I confused the issue, I'm sorry.
An independent contractor and having a contract with the town are two different things.
so you still take taxes out?
Yes, yes.
They would,
A
yes.
contract with the town, they would take care, they would do all the same withholdings that they're doing for anybody else, for any other hourly
We
employee.
read the contract, so
If you were an independent contractor, it would be completely different.
I got confused.
Right.
You'd
that-
be treated just exactly like Denny is.
Which is,
Oh,
which
that
is
ain't
very.
Maybe
No.
better.
You wouldn't get your hand slapped as many times because you're,
Gentlemen, any more conversation on this? Jack?
If you're gonna have a contract, please get it in writing and run it through a lawyer and have it signed by both sides of this, so that who does what to
Yeah.
whom.
Is this a contract that'll have to be renewed on a yearly basis? How does that work?
well, we write contracts for 3 years, like with the salt and sand
Yeah.
folks. It's an annual contract with me.
Tax assessor, his contract?
Tax assessor, he's 3 years, so we can do it that way. We'll talk, the question is, for me, what hour, because all you need to know here is how many hours you want to do.
Right.
I think our policy right now is a 3-year maximum
Yeah.
contract.
So how many hours are we thinking?
Well, you will work whatever.
Over the 24, even
You have to write the contract, yes.
because you're doing 24, so
24 hours?
that's.
24, 25,
Is that what you're saying?
30.
24, 25?
It's up to
So many
you.
That's
hours a
fine.
year, I think the
Yeah.
contract should say so many
For the
hours
year,
a year.
yes.
That way you can put in whatever you want in the summertime.
Okay.
In the wintertime, you can snowmobile and ice fish and do those things and not have to worry about doing 24 hours.
But the contract would specify times in the office and open for,
We can talk about that, Dennis?
Dennis, at this point, you're looking for that so you can figure a number.
25
That's,
hours?
yeah, that's all I'm,
Go the higher, go 25 hours.
Yep,
that's what I do.
that works.
25
Okay,
hours.
25 hours,
It recognizes
work out on
the
a
pay that
month.
was done is subject to that analysis that we're gonna do for pay benefits. We increased his pay too.
What?
Well, he's gonna set his own
Well, it's
number,
gonna,
right?
is it,
Oh, no, that's fair.
You guys work together, you come up with a number
Okay.
that doesn't really have anything to do with.
So it won't have anything to do with the analysis.
No, because see, the state doesn't, when you have a salary or a contract, the state guidelines don't really apply.
I have one
It'd be
question.
like y'all
Can we
would
award a
discuss.
contract to an individual, do we have to take that contract out for bid?
We don't have to do anything anymore.
We don't?
No,
We don't have a bid policy, I guess, that went away.
No, it's coming up.
Well, we don't now.
so if we enforce it.
No, I think any contract should go out.
You shouldn't have to, Dennis, because it's not an independent contractor.
That's right.
It's like
Yeah,
hiring you.
I think you're right, you're right.
You've already got the employee, you're just changing it over to a
Yeah.
contracted
Yeah,
employee.
well, that's good.
Glad we got that settled.
Okay, gentlemen, we're good on everything except code enforcement, and that's going to a contract. Let's go to Article 15. Proceed with voting for the following questions. Shall the town of Belgrade vote to dissolve the code enforcement legal, this is another one, where we're just actually renaming funds.
Well, we are,
14 and 15.
Yeah, you forgot.
Okay, I'm sorry, 14 and 15.
what I'm doing with 14 is just doing away with the appeals board and the planning board reserve accounts. They're annually funded groups, they shouldn't need a reserve account, so we're just doing away with them. That money is going to offset this year's cost that we agreed to up above. The Board of Appeals was 1762, and the planning board was 3,900. Actually, there'll be money left over that will go to the general fund. With 15, the article there is essentially saying we have a legal fund under our town operations, right? And we had a CEO capital reserve for legal activities. I'm suggesting that we do away with the CEO legal capital reserve because it's an ongoing thing that we would fund every year and put all in our legal fund. I'm suggesting we should go to $20,000. We got 19,000 plus or minus in the legal capital reserve that CEO had. I would use that for this year to offset whatever, to bring it up to $20,000 in our legal fund. And every year thereafter, you would vote on the amount that would go into that legal fund. That would cover legal activities for all, whatever the activities were.
Yeah?
Did you say that on 14, that the money that's in their capital reserve, it was what, 1762?
No. The capital reserve is actually, I haven't got the reserves amount with me, but one is right around 7,000, the other one's around 4,600, something like that. So.
And so where are those going if they go away?
If those funds go away, if you agree with this and the town votes to do it, those funds would go to offset the cost for the budgeted line items for the planning board and the appeals board, and the rest, the excess would go into the general fund.
Okay, so you've got the wording wrong then on Article 13. Because right now, though, you've got it, you're raising and appropriating all of that money. You're not just appropriating from somewhere else. It's either and or.
And I didn't know how to handle that because we have that, and then you have, if the other two fail, then 13's not gonna work.
Oh.
Yeah, so you've got something, you're almost better off taking those reserves,
And just
dump
putting
it into the general fund.
That was the initial
and
idea.
Right.
That was the initial idea, but there was some question that came up.
Otherwise, you have a discontinuity in, from one year to the next in how much these things cost, and you lose track of it.
Yeah, we discussed that at the budget committee. Okay, I would.
Comments?
With those changes?
Yes.
Yeah?
And take off the two budget recommendations on both of those last two articles. Because that's just making things go away. It's nothing to do with the budget committee.
And that's 14 and 15, and flip my
That's it, it's lunchtime.
Only half hour.
Planning board, we didn't have anything for them?
Yeah, you did,
We already did it.
Oh, we slipped by you so quick, we didn't know you was here.
Yeah, I know it. Chopped liver, staying
We're gonna
around.
shut the broadcast down. I do apologize. I will say it. Terribly apologetic for having to do that now without having to.
So Gary, you're gonna get with